From the amazing Gallery Bar, Book, and Games here at Atlantic City at Ocean Casino, it's the Malamut Law pregame show. Mark Farzetta along with you today, and I will let you know, ahead of it being Week 9 here in the NFL, or as we know it better, Dallas Week in Philadelphia, I do want to give a special shout-out to our colleague and our friend Derek Gunn. Gunner cannot be with us today due to a family emergency, so please send prayers, send good vibes to the way of the Gunn family. But I do welcome you in to the Malamut Law pregame show. We'll be breaking it all down today when it comes to the Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys come into town to South Philadelphia at 5-2, while the Eagles are at 7-1, enjoying the best record in the NFL. Today is not just about the Eagles creating more separation, it's also about extinguishing any momentum the Dallas Cowboys with 2 consecutive wins could have coming in to South Philly. I'll welcome in our co-analysts today. We have Eagles great and Eagles Hall of Famer Mr. Seth Joyner joining us today, of course, and Adam Malamut himself of Malamut Law. Later on, Bill Colarulo will be joining us for his analysis when it comes to Legal Hands to the Face podcast, as well as the Philly Sports Power Hour right here on JAKIB Media. Seth, I'm going to start with you. As it is Cowboy Week, as a former Eagle, does this week mean a little bit more to you than others?
Always, every time. I don't care what the records are. I don't care what the outlook on the team is. This is always a big game, our biggest rival, bar none.
When it comes to knowing the rivalry, now you are originally from the tri-state area, New York, Philly, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, obviously. You probably knew a little bit about the rivalry already, but when did it set in for you as a player that it was hitting Philly a little bit different?
Well, I really didn't follow Philadelphia Eagles football until I became an Eagle. But the hatred for the Cowboys has always been present. I mean, even growing up as a kid watching the Cowboys, I did not like the Dallas Cowboys whatsoever. And then when I got to Philly and started playing for the Eagles, I was like, wow, this is like, my hatred on steroids. It was perfect.
Wonderful. All right, Adam, as a Philadelphia fan through and through, was this week mean to you?
Listen, Seth said it best. I don't know that there's a more hated team in Philadelphia than the Dallas Cowboys. So I've heard Seth talk before about, sometimes people need a punch in the mouth. That's how I feel about the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. I want to see the Eagles come out. I want to see them punch them in the mouth. And, I told all of my friends who are Cowboys fans that this week at 4:25, we are not friends. We'll resume our friendship in another time, but at 4:25, we are not friends.
I don't think I have any friends that are Cowboys.
You've done a good job.
That, Seth. I may adopt that.
Can't do it.
Great job of venting your friends. Just vetting your friends, making sure they don't get past the background check. When it does come to this history here of this rivalry, I know a lot of plays jump to mind. Adam, I'm going to start with you. When you think about this history here between these two teams, are there plays that jump to mind immediately when you think of Eagles-Cowboys?
Yeah, so far as some of our audience, I'm sure will be old enough to remember this. Some might be too young. But in 1996 and 1997, you had Bobby Taylor. I think he was a 95 draft pick or somewhere around there. He was drafted, I believe, almost for the purpose of covering Michael Irvin, who's a big, tall cornerback. Brian Dawkins was on the team. We had a great defense. And I remember a couple plays, one specifically where, and look, I don't root for any player to get hurt, almost any player to get hurt, but I remember one play where Brian Dawkins and Bobby Taylor hit Michael Irvin and just stood over him. Literally just stood over him, and they sent a message, and that was that Philadelphia spirit coming out in them. That was the Philadelphia DNA, and they talked about this hit for years, and before the show, Farzy, you and I talked about it. It's amazing that Michael Irvin's taken the high road and not blame them for what I think really was the demise of his career, his great storied career. But, Bobby Taylor would shut him down. And I don't remember a game that Michael Irvin had where Bobby Taylor was the cornerback, where Michael Irvin had a big number, a big stat game. So that would probably be, amongst my fondest memories.
It's so crazy because a lot of people will talk about Philadelphia in a negative light, but the guy that got hit, Michael Irvin himself, always talks about it in a positive light. Say, hey man, those fans, they are them. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Those are the fans right there that bring it every single time, and if they're going to be at that high level, it should only elevate your level of play as a visiting player. Seth, when you think back on your career, are there plays that really stick out to you when involved in this rivalry?
I think more so games than actual plays. The 11 sack game was a huge game. I can remember a Monday night game here at the Vet. Every game against them was memorable because, the hatred was so deep, and it wasn't just, it was mutual. It was extremely mutual. Like, I hated going to Dallas to play there, as I'm sure they hated coming here to play us. But we were a measuring stick for each other. I don't think that they could realize or step into, their Super Bowl wins until they felt that they could handle us as a defense. And once they overcame that hurdle, there wasn't really much, to stand in their way as far as them, because it was a process, because we used to beat them like, they stole something, and I mean like really beat them. And then, you could see over the years, over time, them getting better and better and better to the point where they could solve our defense. And once they could solve our defense, that was, their calling card to go to the next level.
I want to obviously ask you a little bit more about the rivalry here and going forward in this game today as well. Biggest mismatch in the Eagles' favor. We'll get to that in a second. But there has been this term that has been thrown about, and you guys have heard this a lot before today. That is the gauntlet. That is the slate of games the Eagles have after today versus the slate of games the Dallas Cowboys have after today. Now, I'm sure you've seen it, but just in case you haven't, of course, you got the Dallas Cowboys today here in Philadelphia before the Eagles take their bye week. Then the Eagles come back and they face the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Then they host Buffalo. Then they host San Francisco. And then they got the Dallas Cowboys again in Big D before going to Seattle, to the noisiest stadium in all the NFL out there in Seattle to face the Seahawks. Now, meanwhile, in the very near future, the Philadelphia Eagles, while they take their bye, the Cowboys are going to be facing those Eagles today. Then they got the Giants, then the Panthers. Neither of those two teams happen to be good at football, unfortunately for the Eagles. And then the Dallas Cowboys got the Commanders. So quite the different slate of games here. I know we always talk about this, Seth. Don't look ahead. You got to focus on what you have right now. But this is, I hate the term must win. This would be really nice to win this game, aside from the obvious just beating the Cowboys. How important is it for the Eagles to stay focused on this game tonight?
I don't particularly care 100% for how the Eagles have won games, but I'm, excited about the fact that they've learned how to win in a myriad of different ways. I'm not really overly concerned with this gauntlet because the one thing about the Eagles, what they do is they get up for the teams that they need to get up for. It's the New York Jets and the Washington Commanders twice, that leaves you scratching your head because these are the teams that they should just be dominating, and they don't. But you get the Miami Dolphins that roll in here with their high-flying offense. Even the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year, this football team steps up against better competition so much more than they do against competition that they know that they should beat. So I don't – while, they're playing against teams with a great combined win-loss record, in their favor. But I'm not really worried because I think this is where we really find out about this football team, and this is where we really find out whether they are willing to step up in back-to-back weeks to actually get it done, because that's what it's going to take for them to get back to the big game. That's what it's going to take for them to get to Las Vegas and win in Las Vegas rather than being the runner-up.
Adam, again, you can never look ahead. You can never look down the schedule. You can only face the opponent that's in front of you now, and that happens to be the Dallas Cowboys. But the Eagles do take an L today, which I'll say for the record right out of the gate, I'm not expecting them to, but if they do, they have the rougher road ahead, and the Dallas Cowboys have a red carpet of opportunity rolled out in front of them.
Can we stop at the negativity? Can we stop at the
I mean, just picked them to win. I didn't even give the official prediction yet, but I said they would win.
No, if they take the L. Listen, here's how I look at it. Before you get to the playoffs, you have to make the playoffs.
Sure.
Every win counts. We need to beat them today. This is a defining game for us because I think that'll set up the momentum for the Eagles to finish strong in their division. obviously, the stronger they finish in their division, the higher seed they end up. Kansas City had a win earlier today, but they weren't the Kansas City of last year. They haven't been all season. So I'm not looking ahead to what happens in the future games. I think that, like Seth said, I think that there are teams that the Eagles will rise for. You get worried about the teams that they really should walk all over. The divisional games, you always worry about the Washington, Commanders and the New York Giants, because historically, in the division they've split, probably more often than not, right? But my hope here is that the Eagles come out, they keep Jalen healthy, they get to the bye week, they give him an opportunity because he still hasn't said that he's 100% and that he's fine, but they get to the bye week, they get him out there, and we proceed from there. But if we win this game today, there
you go.
I am confident that it doesn't really matter what the schedule is going to look like. It all comes down to the W's. So who can count more W's? And look, I think that the Eagles are in a better position than the Dallas Cowboys are for that.
For the record, what I am expecting is for the Philadelphia Eagles to be the team that everybody else on that said gauntlet is worried about. For the record.
No question.
And I hope, and I think today is a day they help solidify that reasoning as well. Seth, when you do look at this matchup today, Eagles have done a lot of great things, obviously, this season when it comes to running the football at times. They have gotten away from it, unfortunately, throwing the football. Jalen Hurts coming off one of his best games of the season. When you look at this particular matchup against the Cowboys today, what do you think is the best thing the Eagles have going in their favor for today? What's the biggest advantage the Eagles have going up against the Cowboys?
Well, the biggest advantage is, one of the big advantages is going to be at home. That's the first thing. You got the home field advantage. We're going to make it extremely difficult for Dallas at the link today. But from a player's perspective, I feel like the Cowboys aren't that good of a team against the run. Defensively, they rank 18th against the rush. They give up 108 yards per game. And we go through these machinations every single week, They are 4th against the pass. They're only giving up 178 yards per game to opponents throwing the ball. And you would think that there is enough there, to warrant the Eagles' game plan to be, okay, let's come out, let's run the football, let's minimize and negate Micah Parsons by running the football at him early. Do not let them get frenzied, because they're going to come in here realizing that it's them. They got 53 guys on that roster and their coaching staff, and it's them against, a whole city. So they've got to come out frenzied and try to figure out a way to, quell the noise and quell the enthusiasm and the energy that the fans will pass on to the Eagles. So the Eagles have to figure out a way to withstand that to begin with, especially on the offensive side, because that defense is going to be coming. They're not going to sit back and allow Jalen Hurts to just do what he wants to. They know that he's slowed with the knee injury, and they know that the focal point is A.J. Brown. So how can they negate that? They're going to have some coverages to take A.J. away. They're going to do some things to force Jalen Hurts into a second read. And I just feel like, if there's ever a game, this is the game where you come out and you run the ball often and early, you dominate the line of scrimmage, you slow Michael Parsons down, and then you turn around and you go play action to move the ball. I'm not – I think that sometimes people think that I'm this great proponent of, just strictly running the football, What I'm in favor of is enough of a balance to say that you're, 40-60 run, 40%, pass 60%. If you get to 50, I'm even thrilled even more. But I'm willing to give that extra 20% to the pass game. But you can't be so far out of whack as far as, the passing game is concerned, because, I sat back and I watched the Chiefs game this morning. And both of those teams run the ball extremely well. And Miami had an opportunity late in that game to actually tie the game up. They ran the ball and got down in position, and then they fell in love, with the pass all over again. I mean, Mostert was just running through that Kansas City offense, and all of a sudden, they threw the ball 4 times in a row and put themselves in a position where Steve Spagnuolo could come after him, and Tua just, he fell apart. So why stop running the football when you're dominating? And I'm not saying that, hey, don't throw the football, because that's where the explosiveness is in our offense. But you got to run the football enough early to make them believe that you're going to run it, so that it opens up the rest of your playbook, and you can have everything else from a passing perspective in your playbook, that you want. If you make yourself one-dimensional, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons are going to feast. They're going to come. And Dan Quinn is not your cover 3, conservative defensive coordinator anymore. He's got some blitzes that he will dial up to try to make Jalen uncomfortable and move him off his spots and make him physically uncomfortable with that knee.
To tease something for a later segment on this pregame show, we're going to get into something else that we talk about often that I think we're actually going to have to see from the Eagles today. This is on the defensive side of the football. But, Adam, I know you're going to the game.
I am.
Yet you're in Atlantic City right now. Yep. Do you own a jetpack?
I'm trying, man. Listen, I don't have the speed that Seth has, but we're gonna go. I'm getting changed, and I'll be in the end zone giving some serious Philadelphia love to that Dallas Cowboy team. You think about this, Farzy, the Philadelphia fans, and there's probably well over 100,000 fans that are in that area right now, have been out there drinking and partying since about 7 o'clock this morning. They are going to get nothing but brotherly love. People complain about the brotherly shove. They are going to get nothing but brotherly love down there.
Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I have a brother. It's not always, puppy dogs and ice cream. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Sometimes you show your love to your brother in a different way. All right? A lot of trash talk goes on there. Exactly. What is your prediction for Eagles-Cowboys today, Adam?
Man, I hurt my my record a little bit with an earlier game. I think that this is going to be a closer game, and believe it or not, I think it's going to be more of a defensive game. I think each team's going to come out trying to feel each other out a little bit more. I'm thinking this might be a 24-17 Eagles win.
24-17. All right, what's one thing, before we let you go, one thing you want to see from the Eagles today that will help get to that score with them coming out on the winning side?
Run to the left. Like Seth said, keep running the ball. Take that pressure off of Jalen Hurts. You've got healthy line on the left-hand side. Run the ball to the left. Stay away from, any goofy, RPOs that are going to sacrifice Jalen. Let him get to the bye week healthy. And if we just keep running the ball, we've got enough talent on this team that we can move that ball effectively, set up the pass.
All right. Fair enough. All right, go get your jetpack on. Go get your Eagles jersey on and get to that end zone, man. Give them hell.
Look for me down there. I'm going to be waving to you guys.
We absolutely will. Adam Malamut, of course, joining us here on the Malamut Law pregame show. Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn, once again, not with us today. He has a family emergency that he is tending to. Send good vibes, send prayers Gunner's way. I did talk to him earlier today. He is in good spirits, but all the more encouragement to him would be appreciated. Bill Colarulo will be joining us coming up momentarily here on the Malamut Law pregame show from Ocean Casino.